All right, thank you for joining us today for this form building training. Today we'll be talking about adding a packet and adding forms to that packet. And just as a reminder, if you do have any questions as we go along, please hold on to those questions. I will be opening up that chat towards the end of the webinar, and I'll be happy to answer those questions or go back over any information if necessary. But let's go ahead and get started. Just as a reminder, if you would like to keep up with the schedule for the February form building series, you can go to My Account, to the Support tab, and then click that Search Guide page. At the bottom right, you have the FormDr updates, which we can click, and the February 2023 webinar schedule. This will give you an idea of what we'll be going over on that specific date in terms of the form building webinars. So you can always come here to see if there's anything that you're interested in learning and making sure to be present for those. All right. To get to your forms, you'll just need to click on My Forms. When you first log in, you'll always be on the account or the send and receive page first. We won't be needing to use this page today. We'll just go down to My Forms, and on the My Forms page is going to be where all of your packets exist. If you need to reorder these for any reason, all you'll need to do is just click in the right-hand side of the blank space and just up or down and drop it wherever it needs to be, just in case you prefer these to be in alphabetical order or something like that. And if you're going to be editing an existing packet, you'll just need to click those three dots on the right side of the packet you want to update and click that Edit Forms button. Today we'll be adding a new packet, so we'll click Add a Packet. And that's going to take us in to the Add Forms page. The Add Forms page is step one of the builder, and this will give you an opportunity to add forms or tabs to a packet or delete any that are currently existing in there. You'll have an opportunity to update the order of the tabs once you get to step two, which is going to be the builder. However, we'll talk a little bit about how to add new forms and what form you get with a new packet by default. So we see here we do have one tab in this packet, which is just titled Form Title, and then it says Scratch right here. This tells us that this is a Scratch tab. If we were to add another one, we could title it Scratch. Save name, we have that same tag here. A Scratch tab is just going, or Scratch form is just going to be a blank area for you to build out a custom form. It will come with the patient name widget by default, and that's simply because the patient name widget will be needed at least once in each packet, because the name filled out in that widget is going to be what name that submission is logged as. So we'll go ahead and click Next to Build, which will take us into step two. I just want to go into the next step so we can see what this Scratch form will look like. And so here we have our form title with our patient name widget and our Scratch tab, or Scratch form, which is the exact same. So basically we can build out whatever we want here. If you are building off of a PDF or a form that you currently have, I would just recommend building out from a Scratch tab and just adding the necessary fields, copy and pasting over, whatever the case may be. You will build out those forms using the elements on the sidebar here, and anything that you click will just be added at the bottom, or you can click and drag if you want to set that specific field or that field into a specific place. If you would like to delete a tab, you'll go back to the Add Forms page, and then we'll just click those three dots on the right side of the tab that you wish to delete, and then we can confirm that deletion. That will remove the tab from our packet, and we won't need to worry about that anymore. Your second option in terms of adding forms is going to be to use one of our pre-made templates. Clicking the template button will take you to our template library, and here you'll be able to search through all of the templates we have already built. We have a bunch of forms, from single forms, questionnaires, screening forms, intake forms, consent forms. We also offer some packets as well. So you can either search for what you're looking for in the search bar, or for instance, we can click on registration forms, and here it will take us to a few of our pre-made packets. And we'll use the physical therapy intake form packet, for example. If you would like a live preview of any one of these forms, you can just click on the image and it will take you to a live preview. That just means that if we have any required fields as indicated by that red asterisk or any conditional information, we can see those populate here in the live preview. So if we click past that required field, that tag will pop up for us. Or if we have any conditional information hidden behind a specific answer selection, we can also see that in action as well. So you kind of get a feel for how the patient's going to interact with that form. This is also a really great way to save some time. If a form is structured similarly to a form that you want to produce into FormDr, instead of building it, you can always just use one of these templates and then just edit the questions to be whatever you need them to be. If you are going to go that route, I do recommend just double checking to make sure there's no conditional information behind any selection option answers, because you don't want to change this to ask if the patient's had a surgery or is on any current medications, and they select yes, and then they're presented with a bunch of insurance information. So just keep that in mind if you are editing these templates to be more like your packet. But this is a packet template, so we do have multiple tabs in here. If we were to select this template, use template, then we will get all 4 of those tabs. We'll first have an opportunity to update the tab titles, but we can save those. And then if we don't need any one of these, we can just delete them out. All right, we'll go ahead and get rid of all of these today. Your third option is going to be to import an existing form that already exists in a packet in your account. All you'll need to do is select that import form button. It will bring you up to a couple of drop downs. The first one will allow you to select a packet that exists in your account. So we can select our registration packet, for instance, and then you'll be able to select a specific tab from that packet. This is useful if you have a consent form or an intake form or something like that that may find itself in multiple packets in your account. You'll only need to create that form one time, and then you'll just be able to import that form into each subsequent packet. Using the import form function does not pull that form out of the other packet. It simply makes a duplicate copy into this one. That being said, all packets do exist separately. So if you do make any edits to a form that's in multiple packets, if you do make edits to a form like that in one packet, those changes won't be reflected in all of the other packets. So you will need to go in and make those changes in the other packets as well. However, if and sometimes it's something simple like an address or a fee. In those cases, it might just be easier to go in to each packet individually and update that information in the paragraph widget or whatever that may be. However, if you've made extensive edits, I do find it saves a lot of time to just import that edited form into the other packets and then delete out the old one. So we could just use this consent form, for instance. Maybe this is a consent form we're using for multiple packets. And then we'll also grab that intake form. This is also a good way to pull from multiple packets. So we could pull, we could create a form from several different packets, or we create a packet of forms from several different packets anyway, if they do have different types of information in them. And then of course your last option here is going to be the convert file option. This is going to be available for all Pro and higher plan accounts. This will allow you to upload a document to be built by our team. We do charge $10 per page. However, you can upload this. You'll just want to click through the builder, and then once you publish that packet, it will send it to our build queue for our team to build. Once it has been sent to our team, you won't be able to go in and edit anything in that packet until our team has completed that. That's just to prevent anyone from saving over each other's work. However, once they have completed it, they will publish it, and depending on your notification settings, if you do have those form builder alerts toggled on in your My Account page, then you'll receive an email notification letting you know that the form is live. Otherwise, you can just keep track of that information on the My Forms page by the icons on the left of the title of the packet. A packet that's live and published will always have that FormDr logo inside a patient chart icon, and then anything that's with our team will have a clock icon instead. However, once they publish that, it will change to that patient chart icon, so you can kind of keep track of that as well there if you don't have those form builder alerts toggled on. All right, and then once you have everything set to where you like, you can just click that next to build button. It'll take you into the builder, and from here you'll be able to update any information. If we need to change the requirements of any of these questions, or if we need to update the order of these forms in this packet. To update the order, all you'll need to do is just select the tab that you wish to move, and then use the left or the right arrows on either side of the title. So we can move that up in the packet, and then we can move our consent form up. And then maybe this is just another consent form or something that we're going to build out that we need to create as new, something like that. And then from here, we'll just use the elements on the sidebar as well as the formatting tools at the bottom of this section. For instance, if we wanted multiple items to be displayed per row, we'll want to use a column widget. And we can go ahead and keep that patient name in there. We'll just go ahead and use that. Maybe we're going to ask for a patient name and a date of birth or something like that. And then now we have two elements here. When using the date widget, if you are asking for date of birth or something like that, anything that's a past date that's not today's date, you will want to make sure to update that widget by hovering over it and clicking on that orange pencil icon that populates. You'll just want to make sure to untoggle the today default toggle, because otherwise it will fill that out with today's date. And if this is a date of birth question, for instance, and this is required, if we have the today default toggled on, it will read as a filled out element. It will read as the patient has entered the today's date instead of require them to enter a new date. So it is feasible that they could submit the form without completing this question. So just be wary of this and make sure to untoggle that today default if this is a required field. I always like to highlight that just because this seems to be one of the simple things, or simple fixes anyway, that can cause a bunch of frustration. And then from here, if we wanted to add any more fields to this widget, we could. It will default to 3 elements per row. We'll just add a couple more just to demonstrate this. And then on the final row of that column, it will always format to as many elements are within it. So we only have 2 elements within it. It will push them to take up half of the available space as a formatting function. If you do want to take up that extra space and get this information to be formatted the same as the rest of the column, all you'll need to do is use a group widget. The group widget I find is very helpful in terms of being a spacer and used as a formatting tool. The group widget otherwise is just going to be a tool used for you to move information around the form. It won't really have any effect on the way your patient interacts with the form. It is just a formatting tool to help move large groups of information at once. However, I find it's most useful as a spacer because it will take up that extra space and it will not present anything there for the client. So we can go to the next style page, and the style page is always going to be a live preview of your form. So again, if we have any required fields that we click past, we will be notified with those tags. And if we have any conditional information, we can see that here as well. So this is a good way to test to see if that's displaying properly. And if it's not, you can always just go right back to the builder and then update that information and then come back to the style page to test it out. Oh, we need to go there, go back to our, and so we can see here on our Scratch tab, we do have this space is taken up by that group widget. However, we are unable to see that as the patient or as the person filling out the form, but these other 2 widgets are falling into line with that 3-column formatting. If you do want to update that format, you can always just hover over the column itself and click on that orange pencil icon for the column. And then we can update here the numbers of elements per row. You can go up to 9 elements if you want, but it will always default to 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up that chat as well, just in case we do have any questions coming through. We're running towards the end here, but the chat is open. If you do have any questions, please feel free to get those in as we continue along. All right. And as we wait for those to come in, we'll just go through the available toggles that you'll have, or toggle functionality that you'll have for the widgets. If we go ahead and hover over our text field here, we can click that orange pencil icon. It will open that up. And then we have our toggle menu at the top here. When using the toggle menu, if you want to require a field, all you'll need to do is enable that required toggle. Now the patient will need to fill out this field prior to submitting the form. If they try to submit the form before filling this field out, they will be notified with a pop-up that tells them what tab has a required field that they missed and also what question that is, so that they'll be able to go look for that. It will also have that required tag popped up for it as well. All added elements will default to be aligned left. So if you do want a text field, for instance, to be aligned right, we can just click and add a new one. Say this is going to be patient initials or something like that. And we would like to align that right just to give them a little bit less space to enter their initials. We can go ahead and do that. I don't find too many uses of the aligned right out there in the wild of the forms that I work on or update, but I do see them, and it is going to be a personal preference for how you wish to display those. I do find if you're asking the patient for information, it is often best to give them as much space to fill that out as necessary. However, there are instances where a right alignment might work a little bit better for you. Your third option here in the toggle menu is going to be the hide on print, and the fourth will be the hide from user. I like to highlight these toggles just because just to explain how they're used, and they can be useful depending on what you're going to use them for. If hide on print is toggled on, anytime this form is printed, this question will be omitted. So if you are printing blank PDFs to be used for in office, whenever patients come in to fill out the forms on paper, then if this is toggled on, that question will not be included in that blank PDF of the form. The hide from user toggle is a really great candidate for any staff only information or anything like that, because when this is toggled on, when the form is sent to a patient, the packet is sent to a patient, they will not see this information. So we could even use that toggle on our column here, and the patient will not see this entire group of information whenever they're sent the form. So you won't have to go in and update that toggle for each individual element. If you just want that whole section to be hidden, you can always just hide from user on that column itself, and that will prevent the patient from seeing this. When the patient submits that form back to you, that information will still be there. So if you have a member on staff that needs to go in and sign anything or update any information, they can do so. That information will be there with no risk of the patient filling it out. Oftentimes it's a doctor's signature or an attorney's signature or something like that that the patient just gets to, and they're kind of on autopilot. They see a signature field, they sign it, they don't really read it, and then it can cause a problem on the tail end of that when the doctor or whoever that may be needs to go in and sign that field and it's already been filled out. So you can just hide from user on that signature field and they won't even be able to see it. Similarly, you could hide a form in your packet as well. So if we wanted to hide our consent form, all we need to do is just hide from user on that tab itself. This will prevent the patient from seeing that tab. So you could feasibly have an entire tab worth of staff only information and just hide from user on that tab. The patient will not see any of that information. It will be there for you whenever they submit that form back to you. So that can also be pretty useful as well. You can also have a packet with 2 separate forms in it, and then you can hide, send it to a patient. They can complete it and send it back to you, and then you can hide the other one and unhide this one, send that back to them, so you could get a little bit different results using that hide from user function. Okay, we've got a question. Okay, so the question is the easiest way to move an existing form that's a Word document to FormDr without sending it to us. It would just be to recreate that form using the elements in the builder. We have also too, I would absolutely recommend, we'll go ahead and just publish this packet so we can get back to our account. Before we do that, I'll just talk about the style page really quickly before we move on. This will give you an opportunity. I know I mentioned this is a live preview of the form. This is a really great way to see the form in kind of a live capacity, but this will also give you an opportunity to add a logo file or change the background color. If you do know that specific hex key, you can enter that information, or you can just use, the color picker to slide around and find something that looks good for you. If you have a packet in your account that's already been styled, you won't have to style each other packet. You can also import a style much as you would import a form from another packet. This import style section will only be available once you have a second packet in your account. However, you can just select from that other style or from that other packet, and we can import the style with the logo on that packet as well. So that's a nice way to save some time in terms of styling. If you've gone in and updated the selection option colors and spent a lot of time tweaking the form, you won't have to do that each time. And then once we're ready here, we'll just click that next to publish button down at the bottom right. It does say published. However, we have not published the form yet. We have one more step to go. So we'll get one last opportunity to update the title of our packet, which we can do here. Just make sure to click that Save Name button. And then you'll get one other opportunity to collect any other information from this form that you need. And then once we're ready, we'll click the Finish Building, back to My Account, or the My Account button at the bottom left. That will take us back to the Send and Receive page. However, that will let us know that those changes have been saved and published. Our form is now published and live. We can go ahead and click on that, and we'll be taken to a live version of that form. All right, but to better answer your question, for other resources in terms of how to use the builder, I would definitely recommend going to the My Account section, clicking on the support and going to our guide. And I know I mentioned this earlier in terms of the webinar schedule through the FormDr updates. However, this is also a really great resource. I mean, just in terms of using the account in general, sending forms, setting up integrations and things like that, but building forms specifically for the purposes of this conversation. We do have articles in here of all of our widgets, how to build out an intake form, how to duplicate and move columns and things like that, uploading a form to an existing packet if you did want to have our team convert that for you. But this is a really nice way to kind of get familiar with all of the elements that you'll be using. And then also I would absolutely recommend just attending some webinars. And if you like to, we also can send some other webinars that we've previously recorded as well, just in terms of using calculation tool with the rating scale, things like that. If you would like for us to send those to you, I would just recommend creating a ticket at the bottom of this section, reaching out to a support staff, and you could just say something like requesting pre-recorded webinars for form building or something like that, and I can give support a heads up in terms of keeping an eye out for those tickets, and I'll let them know which ones that they can send you that might be helpful. But I would absolutely recommend continuing to join us for our form building webinars throughout this month, as we will be doing them as part of a series. So we will have we'll kind of be building out on the same packet, just kind of building off of what we worked on in the previous webinar. And so next up will be on the 9th, we'll be talking about how to use autofill and how to autofill into a paragraph. And then next Tuesday, we'll be talking about creating demographics and building out, basically an intake form, things like that. But I would absolutely recommend coming to our guide and just keeping up with the schedule. And if there is anything specifically that you would like to, see or get a recording of that you won't be able to attend, I would just recommend letting support know, and we can send that to you once we have that video recorded. All right. Did we have any other questions? I know we are coming to the end of our webinar, but I'm happy to get any more answered while we wait. And in the meantime, I mentioned the integrations a bit earlier in passing, but while we're right here, we could talk a little bit about them. We do integrate with a few different companies directly in terms of exporting information, although not exactly form building related. Very helpful to know. But Athena Health, Epic, Mind, Body, and Modernizing Medicine. You can also use this for any bulk exporting, or if you prefer PDF, for instance, we can export into Dropbox or Google Drive. This one will be automatic, so you won't have to manually export that information. But the reason I wanted to come here is also if you are collecting payment information from your patients for any fees or payments, we do integrate with Stripe and Square as well. And once you have integrated with either one of these companies, you will receive a new widget on or in the builder. I don't believe we have it set up on this account, but I'll show you where to look for it. Yeah, once that an integration has been set up with Stripe or Square, there will be a new widget right in this section here in between the images and sign. It's a credit card widget, and you can just add that in and it will collect all of the pertinent information to charge a credit card. So that can be helpful as well. And I bring that up just because that might be easier than building out a credit card section to collect that information. More question? Yeah, in terms of adding the forms, like it would be either getting familiar with the builder and learning how to build and use them here. Today's webinar was more about adding a new packet in terms of adding Scratch forms and going through the templates, and a little bit about using the columns. But I would definitely create, if you have space in your account, I think it's really helpful to just create a new packet and then use that for any type of like form building, experimenting, as you say. But I think the easiest thing is probably to just get a general intake form and try to build that out first. Again, I would recommend also using one of our templates. So you could come into our intake form here as well, patient intake form packet. This is going to be a big one. Oh no, it's only 4. But you could use a general intake structure here and then just go in. We can use that, for instance. Maybe we only want that intake form from this packet. We can delete out the others. And then what we'll do here is we'll just go into the builder, select that tab, and then from here, we can just select any one of these elements and update that information to be whatever we need. Maybe we don't need this occupation or employment information, and we can just delete out that whole section of information. Maybe we don't need the work address, so we can get rid of this whole group of information here, get rid of all of that at once. And then if you need to update any of the questions, instead of selecting the orange pencil icon for either the group or the column widget that the information is contained in, you'll just want to hover over that specific element and then select that orange pencil icon for the specific one. Similarly with the paragraph widgets, it can sometimes, I guess, be confusing to which one you're updating. For paragraph widgets, I always just recommend hovering over the specific, like if we want to unbold this information specifically here, I just hover over the specific words, and then we'll see that orange pencil icon pop up for that specific paragraph widget. We can open that up and go in, and then we can unbold this here. But whatever you're hovering over, the orange pencil icon for that specific widget will populate, as well as the container that it's in. So we are in a column widget here, but that one's farther away from this specific element. So you'll just know which one you're hovering over is going to be the one that you update. And then also too, before we wrap up, in terms of looking for conditional information, for a selection option question here, we can select that orange pencil icon and scroll down to the answer area. We see this open area here that says drag and drop form elements here. We can enter any conditional information that we want to add to be populated once they've selected that. However, if you already have conditional information in a selection option question, that area will not populate. It will be a link that says show conditional fields instead, and you'll just need to click that. That will open up that area for you, and then you can update all of this information accordingly. All right. I do apologize as we are out of time today. But thank you very much for joining us. Just as a reminder, we host the form building webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. Again, next webinar will be over autofill. You can always keep up with that in the form building webinar schedule. And then on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we host onboarding webinars where we take you through general use of the account, sending forms, updating admin and user information and things like that. We host those at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. So again, these are all free. Please feel free to join us for as many of these as you like until you feel comfortable with the product. Or if you have any staff members as well that you'd like to learn this information, we highly encourage you to send them our way as well. But thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you all have a great afternoon and hope to see you next time.